So again, thank you to Relevance Lab and to Chef for sponsoring tonight. I think just a round of applause is really great. And yeah, this meetups are so important. But in addition to meetups, it is also important that we as a community have an opportunity to connect with one another online. And sometimes we connect with one another online through code contributions, through open source, and so forth. But what we would love to do is invite you to join the Chef Community Slack team. So maybe you use Slack today, maybe not. In any case, if you go to community-slack.chef.io, you can join the Chef community. In fact, it's open to anyone. And not only is it open to anyone, but you have full control over the Slack team itself. So you could create a Bangalore Chef channel within that, and you could communicate with one another. Another thing I will tell you that happens a lot in the US, I don't know if it happens here or not, but local communities will set up Slack teams. Actually, it's kind of ridiculous. If I show you really quickly, this is my Slack. I don't know if you're familiar with Slack. How many of you use Slack today? Yeah. So if you look at the left, you'll see that I belong to, I don't know, look, you can't even count them. It stops at 9. And then all of these Slack teams that I belong to, it's kind of ridiculous. And also you'll see all the red circles with the numbers. So clearly I don't read Slack either. But I belong to all of these teams. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because some of those teams, I live in Washington, D.C. There is a D.C. Tech Slack. Any technologist in the DC area can join that Slack team, and we can communicate with one another as a team. So I definitely invite you all to join the Chef Community Slack, but perhaps it makes sense, or maybe there already is one, a Bangalore Tech Community Slack that's already out there. So that is another place that you can connect as a community of people in a location. I think that's pretty important and very, very helpful. We don't have time tonight to go around and do introductions and have everyone introduce themselves. But again, this meetup is not about me, it's about you. So I think it is important that we at least pause, I at least stop talking for a minute, and allow anyone who's interested to stand up, introduce yourself, answer one or more of these questions. If you're hiring at your company, and well, let us know. If you're here and you're looking for work, let us know about that. Although I understand that might get a little bit dicey because you might be here looking for work and your manager might be here. So what do you do? What do you do? So here's what we're going to do. If that is your situation, when you stand up to introduce yourself, I'm going to give you a keyword. The keyword tonight will be papaya. So if you stand up and say papaya, everyone in the room will know I'm looking for work. But the good thing is your manager won't understand that because, well, they're a manager, right? And so it's like you could write code and show it to the manager. The manager wouldn't know what it is. So if you say papaya, the manager won't know what you're talking about. They'll just think it's a weird DevOps thing. So if you say the word papaya, we'll know. Your manager won't, but we'll know that person is looking for work. Okay, so if you're hiring, if you're looking for work, if you're attending or speaking at a conference coming up that maybe folks in the room would be interested in knowing about, please share that with us. Or if there's something else that we should know that you'd like to share, this is a great opportunity to do so. So I am going to stop talking and I'm going to invite someone who would like to speak next. Don't be shy. Someone here must be.
Okay, my name is Sanjay and I work as a DevOps engineer in a company called Singa. Basically, we make games.
Excellent. Welcome. I'm glad that you're here. Thank you. See how easy that? Look, are you feeling okay still?
Yeah.
Yeah. See? It's great. It's easy. It's easy. Anyone can do it.
I'm Sharik.
Hi, Sharik.
I'm from IBM. I was talking to Daniel a couple of minutes back, actually. I just want to understand what is your plan for expanding in India, like you said. She was telling me that you have plans to being officially in India.
Yes.
Because I mean, before IBM, I was with Intel, and if I remember correctly, the architects who are imparting training in India for Chef Essentials and Intermediate.
Yes.
Since you don't have presence in India, they are on probably on relevance labs or something like that, or some kind of understanding.
Right.
So what I would give you as a feedback is like immense potential is there. I have trained people on basics of chef on in Intel in IBM.
Yes.
And I've got the training as well. I have some outside groups as a volunteer. I train there as well. Potential is immense and huge. Like demand is there for training and understanding chef.
Right.
So the sooner the better. That's all I can say.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, so first I want to say thank you for helping spread the love of chef and helping people get up to speed on how to use chef. That is hugely important to us and hugely important to our community. Second, we do have great partners in the area like Relevance Lab.
Yeah.
As I mentioned, this is my first time in India, Danielle's first time in India, Scott's first time in India. And the thing that's true is we realize there is huge potential here.
Yes.
And we knew, like when we were back home in the States, we knew there's a lot of potential in India. There's a lot of people doing chef. But then you come to India and you experience that. And it really has changed us, I think. And I think that we at Chef have sent people to India. We have a colleague of ours, Arnie, who has spent many, many months in India. He's not in India right now, though. He spent many, many months in India. He's happy, and his family is happy that he's back in the States right now. But this is definitely something that Chef needs to look at. We've just started actually ramping up our own presence in Asia Pacific. And I realize Asia Pacific is much larger than India, but India is a hugely important component of that. We have so many customers that have offices here in India. We have companies that are here in India exclusively that are using Chef or are interested in Chef.
I'm on a personal mission. I'm on a personal mission, but we'll get somebody here soon.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's what I was talking about. Like, the problem is the communication gap, and because of the time zone differences. I was talking to Angie. I was in touch with Bakinamo.
Yes.
But because of these problems, it was never like as I was telling you, it can never replace a face-to-face communication.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know what else it can't replace? A hug. Thank you. Yes.
My name is Vivek Kumar. I work for a company called Business Solution, and we are providing insurance for
Yes.
businesses. Few of them were earlier working for Relevance Labs. Okay.
Mhm.
So, and the good thing is that I learned this chef for almost 11 months, started for 11 months. But that, yeah, we are actively using chef in our organization for the past almost 3 years.
Yeah.
More.
Excellent.
So since I joined Altus near about 11 months back, so I don't know what they using. So the only one pain point which I realized in my organization is that people are not aware of the Linux first.
I'm sorry, the people?
They don't know about the Linux first.
They don't know about Linux.
Yeah, that is the only pain point. Otherwise, the things are absolutely fine. Although Chef also supports on Windows as well.
Of course.
But not the server, I guess, right?
Right. That's correct. Yeah. So the Chef server and Chef Automate will only run on Linux. They will not run on Windows. But as you're automating with Chef, we want to be platform agnostic, of course. So we have resources, cookbooks, and recipes that you can use for Windows as well as for Linux. Because we recognize that the world is a hybrid place, right? Every organization, very few organizations run one version of one operating system across their entire organization.
Is there such organization?
Wouldn't it be great? There are such organizations.
Yeah.
Yes.
So for example,
They're usually relatively small. That's not always the case. Sometimes they're quite large, but it is pretty rare. And I think that when it comes time, and frankly, I think yes, if you don't know Linux and you want to do some automation and you want to do some automation on Windows, frankly, it's really a change in your mindset. when it comes time to do automation. Before I used Chef, I was a sysadmin in a Linux world. And someone told me, Nathan, you should look at Chef or you should look at Puppet because it can automate some of the things that you're doing. And I told that person, I said, Tom, I'm way too busy to automate. I'm too busy to automate. And when I think about those words now, it's ridiculous, right? But it required me to change the way I think about the work that I do and change the approach that I take to how I get that work done, right? And so it's a shift in your mindset to get to automation. And especially, I think that shift can be especially difficult for some IT pros on the Windows side. If I'm a Windows administrator, a lot of the work that I do before I get to automation, a lot of the work that I do involves clicking around in a GUI, pulling down menus and selecting items. And then I say, let's do automation, and it's infrastructure, it's code. Wow. Wow. I will tell you, I have a very good friend of mine, in fact, he's my brother-in-law, who's a Windows admin. And I said to him, I said, Matt, have you looked at PowerShell? Have you looked at DSC? Like, this is the future of Windows. You have to be embracing these new technologies coming out of Microsoft. And he said to me, he said, why would I write a paragraph of text when I can just click a button 8 times? And it was, like, that's funny, right? That is funny. I'm glad that you're laughing at that. But it's sad. It's sad. And I think that again, it's back to that mindset. So it's a big mindset shift. And sometimes it's so hard to understand what that is going to look like and the mind shift that you have to go through unless you see it. And sometimes even seeing it isn't enough. You have to feel it. You have to put your hands on a keyboard and do a simple thing and understand the power that gives you.
Yeah, I also realized that some 7 years back, I was working for a company called Meetup. So they have their own Linux version called SUSE Linux.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
So we used to do all the things, automation, everything on the SUSE Linux process.
Yep.
So the good thing was that time Chef was not there, I guess. Okay. So we created our own infrastructure automation.
Yeah.
And we realized that we could have patented it, although we didn't do that. And later on, the similar concept came for Chef.
Yeah.
Which is available right now.
Mm-hmm.
So
yes.
That is the one good thing.
That is awesome. That is awesome. A lot of companies try to solve the automation on their own. And that's great. But typically, your business is not about writing an infrastructure automation framework. That's not what business you're in. That's what business I'm in. That's what business Chef is in, for sure. And it's not that I don't want to compete with you, but I think that your business, like you're in a real estate business, right?
Yes.
Your job is to sell real estate. It's not to build an infrastructure automation framework. So focus on selling the real estate. Focus on what's the business of your business. And then leverage the community, leverage the tooling and the frameworks that are out there. Okay. Cool. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So my name is Dushyant. I'm a tech lead with Wellness Lab. I've been working with Chef from 2013. So when we had version 10, we had the cows will be pains.
Yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So
can we not talk about that anymore, please?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah. So we have been seeing a lot of traction among customers, especially in India for Chef and Chef development. And I just want to know that we are actively hiring. So if you have, if anybody is looking for a job change, you can contact us. And that's it with my name. And I have a question for you.
Sure.
So long time back, I was going through one of your videos. We talked about how focusing on DevOps, we are losing focus on expertise. I still remember that talk.
Yeah.
So has that perception changed, or like still the same? And how do you deal with customers when they ask the same question?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I do have this thing where when we talk about this word DevOps, oftentimes what people hear when we say DevOps is that developers need to start carrying the pagers. Developers need to be responsible for the production environment. Or maybe they hear operators need to start writing the applications. Like sysadmins, you now have to become coders. You have to become developers. And we think that DevOps really, sometimes it just means you have to do everyone else's job and get paid the same, right? Just do more. Become a generalist. But that's really not what DevOps is about at all. DevOps truly is about keeping your specialty. The thing I know is how to manage and administer systems. The thing you might know is how to write Java applications. I might know how to run a Java application, but I'm not going to write it. Maybe that's what you know. And with DevOps, it's not about we all do each other's jobs. It is about we keep our specialty, but we increase our connection. We increase the amount of collaboration that we're doing. So if you go back to the early stages of DevOps, when DevOps first started, it was kind of fighting back against developers who were writing code, building applications, and then taking that code and throwing it over the wall, saying, here, you go deploy it, right? And that's no good. And what happened on the operations side was they'd receive that, they'd try to run it in production, and it wouldn't work. And they'd go back to the developers and say, this doesn't work. And what does the developer say? Works on my machine. What's your problem? Right? And that's...
They say one more thing.
Yeah.
Use the ticket.
They say, oh, yeah. Yeah, open a ticket. Open a ticket. I don't want to talk to you. Open a ticket. I'll respond to the ticket. Right? And what they're going to say in the ticket is, works on my machine. Right? And so I think it's really about how do we collaborate better together. And honestly, when we truly think about DevOps, and we might talk about this later, but I think DevOps goes beyond development and operations. So if you think about what were the circumstances that led developers to write that code and chuck it over the wall, it's not because they it's not because they hated the people on the other side of the wall. It's because they had no idea, have no understanding, have no care for what happens after I write this application. And part of the reason they don't care is as a business, as an organization, we told them not to care. We tell developers, building applications takes too long. You need to build applications faster. And so developers adopt things like agile development methodologies. And agile, not necessarily by design, but in practice, agile focuses on the building of software components. How do we build those faster? But where agile kind of stops is when it's built. Agile doesn't really, in practice, address how do we run an application. And that's where the money is made. When our customers are using the application, that's when the application matters. And so we actually have set up, maybe we pay our developers bonuses. And maybe those bonuses are based on what new features did you build. But maybe we also pay operations bonuses or give them incentives. And those incentives are keep the systems up and stable. And when we set up incentives like that, these incentives are fighting against each other. You're told, build more stuff. You're told, keep everything stable. So what do you do to keep it stable? We don't change anything. I'm not taking anything new. So now you're angry at him. He's angry at you. It's fighting against each other, and we're getting paid to do it. The winner gets paid more. That doesn't make any sense. What we need to do instead is focus on how do we serve the customer. And so I often talk about this in terms of pop culture. But I'm not sure the pop culture reference that I use will actually translate here. Shall I try it out anyhow? Why not? Okay, so, yes. Is the food ready now? All right, so I will tell one quick story and then we're going to eat. All right, so when I was growing up in the US, listening to popular music on the radio, there were rock bands and there were rap bands, like hip hop, you know? And there was a producer named Rick Rubin who went to this rap band called Run DMC, and he said, Run DMC, what you should do is cover a song by Aerosmith called Walk This Way. And do you know this song? Do you know Run DMC and Aerosmith? Have I lost some of the people here? Probably, yeah, okay. Rock, rap, two very different cultures, two very different sounds. Well, the rappers said, we don't understand the lyrics. We don't even understand what these guys are saying. And to me, that felt like me as an operator, I don't even understand what this code does. And it was the rockers' song that the rappers were singing. And so the rockers were like, what the hell are they doing to my song? Which, again, feels like the engineer saying, it works on my machine. What the hell are you doing to it in production? But what happened, this producer, Rick Rubin, said, no, we need to work together. And what they didn't say, what Rick Rubin didn't say was, hey, you rapper that drops all the fat rhymes, like, you don't need to pick up the guitar and start thrashing. And Steven Tyler, you know, or the guitarist from Aerosmith, you don't need to drop the guitar and start rapping. What I need you to do is keep your specialty and work together for the audience. Make the audience happy. Remember who your customer is. And by collaborating, you made that audience happy. And now today, like back then, when it happened when I was a child, when a rock band and a rap band came together and collaborated on a song, it was unheard of. No one had ever done that before. Today, we call that popular music. It's just the way it works. Crossovers happen all the time. You have an artist from one genre, an artist from another genre. They come together, they make a song. Everyone loves it. It's a great song. Maybe not everyone loves it. But they come together, and that's just how it works. And so for me, DevOps is not about giving up your specialty and becoming a generalist. It's about honing your specialty, but increasing your collaboration across your organization and with your team in service of that customer. The first topic is test-driven, and this is a good opportunity for me to talk a little bit more about each topic also. So test-driven infrastructure automation. And in that topic, my goal is to build live, in front of your own eyes, a chef cookbook. But build that chef cookbook following a test-driven approach. And in that, we will explore all of the latest and greatest tooling around testing your infrastructure. The next one is compliance automation in action. And that topic will be about InSpec and compliance automation. And what I will do is a demo where we look at exactly what is InSpec, what is the problem that it is solving, and how does InSpec work together with Chef Automate to provide compliance automation. The third topic is Habitat. Maybe you've heard of Habitat, maybe not. It's in the application automation space. It's the newest open source project coming out of Chef. The fourth one is DevOps, and that is a pretty wide open topic. So I'll have some things to say about that. That's a good one for discussion. Also, we can talk about DevOps. We've already had some discussions around DevOps. I've already given up some of my best stories. I'll have to make up new ones, I suppose. The fifth topic is ChefConf. You may or may not know that we recently held our annual big community conference called ChefConf. We held that just back in May in Austin, Texas. So I'd love to give sort of a little recap, talk about what we learned, what happened at ChefConf, and how you can still take advantage of some of the things that happened there. I'd like to talk about community and HugOps. What is community? What is HugOps? What's that all about? Why is your prime minister hugging my president? I mean, I get the hugs. But I don't know. That was maybe a step too far. Next is selling DevOps and automation. I think many of us in this room are practitioners. It's our job to automate things. And when we automate things, our jobs get better. We can think about higher level problems. We can think about more impact that we can have to the business. But it's also true that sometimes our organization is slow to adopt automation. And so it is our job to take this idea of DevOps, take this idea of automation and sell it within our own organization so that we can have time, so that we can have people, so that we can have buy-in to go off and do these projects that are going to pay big at the end. And then the eighth topic that we have that we can talk about tonight is learning Chef. I know some of you in this room have watched videos that I've put together about how to use Chef. Frankly, those videos are pretty old now. Things have changed within the Chef community. I'm a little grayer, maybe a little heavier. But you get to see me in person tonight, so that's cool. But let's talk about the best ways to learn Chef today. If you have new people on your team, if you're still learning Chef, how do you get started with that, or how do you continue that journey? Because, of course, it is a journey. You'll never be done learning, I hope. I hope none of us will ever be done learning. Okay. Those are the 8 topics that we have for tonight. Your job is to shout one out and let me know where should we start. So, Learning Chef. Learning Chef is the one that I hear. Learning Chef is the one that I hear. All right. That's awesome. So, Learning Chef. The absolute best way to learn Chef is not Chef Rally. It's not Learn Chef. The absolute best way to learn Chef is to use Chef. You have to use Chef to learn Chef. I liken it to, I worked at a company one time. This company got acquired by a German company. And I knew that meant I was going to have to start making trips to headquarters, which means I was going to start interacting with a lot of German people. And in high school, I had taken German. So I figured, well, I need to brush up my German skills. So while I'm commuting to work every day, I'll listen to German lessons on a CD. And in the car, I will practice my German. And I tell you what, when I'm sitting in the car alone with a CD reminding me, my German is spot on. I can carry on a conversation with anyone from Germany or any native German speaker. And then I got out of my car and I went to Germany. And it was not actually the case. And the problem was I was using German, but I was using it just with myself and the CD that I was listening to, right? I hadn't actually built up that muscle memory or that thought process, right? I had to get embedded within the country to actually start speaking the language, actually start carrying on those conversations. So the first thing I'll say about learning Chef is the only way to learn Chef is to do it. You have to use Chef. And of course, as you get started learning Chef, some of the best ways to do that are to have someone guiding you. Have someone helping you, explaining things along the way. Now, sometimes you'll have the benefit of that person that's guiding you and explaining being in the same room as you. But that is truly an honor when that happens. It doesn't happen all the time that we can pull together a training class with an instructor. So Learn Chef Rally is the next best thing for that. So this is a website that we recently relaunched. In fact, we relaunched it at ChefCon. I'm just going to pull up the website right now. And that website is at it's at learn.chef.io.
You've done a great job.
It's a great job, isn't it? It is really, really good.
What it was a couple of weeks back and what it is now, it's completely different.
It's completely different. Completely different, yes. So a couple of things here that are brand new. Well, actually, everything you're looking at is brand new. So that's easy. But a couple of things that I just want to point out. I'm currently logged in to Learn Chef. Now, this is a brand new capability where you can log into the website to Learn Chef. The reason this is so great is we can actually help you track your progress. Help you track your progress. Which modules, which training lessons have you taken? Which are you yet to take? Which ones are you in the middle of taking? And so forth. And so we break Learn Chef down into a number of tracks and then modules within those tracks. And in fact, as you go through, you can collect, and this, again, like I'm sure we're super US-centric on this, but these are like little loyalty cards. You have this here if you go into a shop and you buy, I don't know, you buy some paneer from that shop, and they stamp your thing, and then you go back next week and you buy some more paneer, they stamp you again, and when you have 5 stamps, you go in and you get some paneer for free. And that's awesome. Who doesn't want free paneer? Anyone that does, it's right out there. Right? So you can collect these stamps. And this says, look, I've completed the getting started. So I spent about 10 minutes on getting started. I've captured that. Infrastructure automation takes about 8 hours. I've collected 1 stamp there. I have a couple more stamps to go to fully complete that. So as you click into each one of these, You'll see that there are lessons or modules within there. So within infrastructure automation, you have learn the chef basics. I've completed that one. Manage a node with chef server, getting started with test kitchen, and so forth. Each one of these modules has a little video that introduces the module. It has some reading for you to do. And when there are labs, we provide you with the infrastructure that you need to complete those labs. And then the other thing that happens at the end of each one of those modules is there's an assessment. We ask you some questions and ask you to answer those questions. Now, those questions are primarily for you, to help you test your knowledge. Did I actually retain the things? Did I understand the concepts that were presented well? Did I fully understand them? So that's what those questions are about. We aren't looking after you and saying, oh, 4 out of 5 wrong. No. That's for you to understand and to make sure that you're getting the most out of this. So this Learn Chef site is truly the best way, short of just using Chef, to learn Chef. Now there's another thing that is very true about learning Chef. When you come to Learn Chef.io, what we can do is teach you how Chef works. We can help you understand what Chef does, how you can use Chef to accomplish different tasks, how you can do things with Chef. What we can't teach you here is how do you do Chef at your company? How do you do Chef at Informatica, where we were today? How do you do Chef at Qualcomm? How do you do Chef at Tesco? How do you do Chef at IBM? All of these things are very different. But it is important that first you understand how the framework works. And then we go back to the thing that I said is paramount. You have to use Chef. Using Chef here on Learn Chef absolutely is going to help you start to learn it. But I would equate that back to I'm sitting in the car listening to the CD speaking German to myself. I'm feeling pretty good about that. They told me take this step, then take this step, then take that step. And that's what I did, and it all worked. I must be a Chef expert. Okay, now go into your cube or sit at your desk and do something with Chef. Ooh, I don't even know where. I'm back to speaking English full time. No more with this German, right? So you have to start here with Learn Chef, but find a nice project that you can take on within your own organization. Because you'll find that the way that your organization does things is slightly different. Right? Maybe you don't even have access to the things that you need. What about the Chef repository where all of your Chef code lives today? Do you have access to that? If you're going to do things, do you have to change? Do they start with a ticket? Do you have access to the ticketing system? Like all of these things that you will discover about how Chef works at where you work. That's important. What questions can I answer for you about Learn Chef? There was also recently some chef certification. So as you go through and start to build up these modules, we actually have some certification programs. Let's see. I'm not sure how to find those. Let's see what we have over here. Progress. Here we go. Down at the bottom, there's a certification link. And our certification program looks like this. You gather a number of badges to get a certification. So the badges that we have today, and we will be rolling out additional badges, but we have a badge for Basic Chef Fluency, Local Cookbook Development, Extending Chef, and Deploying Cookbooks. So you can actually sit an exam and get Chef certified. So I would recommend going through Learn Chef, practicing some Chef for real in your environment before you think about taking these exams, but then you can go through those and get some certifications. All right, those are the most important things I wanted to tell you about learning Chef.
Question there.
Yes?
You mentioned about habitat, so anything else that's coming new, how soon would that hit Learning Chef?
Yes, so how do new things end up on Learning Chef?
How long, or if I have to ask it a different way, what is the typical lead time before I start seeing new stuff on Learning Chef?
Yeah, that's a great question. So how quickly will I start seeing new stuff on Learn Chef? And I think that part of that, the easy answer, it depends. Okay, next question. I won't just leave it at that. But honestly, of course, it does depend. It depends on how big that new feature is. So Habitat is a completely new project. So in fact, with Habitat, on the Habitat website, we have some tutorials. Those tutorials maybe have not yet been included into Learn Chef, but eventually over time they will be included and extended in Learn Chef. So if it's a bigger project like Habitat or a bigger feature, you may find some sort of standalone tutorials or learning materials that are actually where we recommend you get started. And part of the reason we keep those things separate is because a new project like Habitat moves so quickly. Chef certainly still is moving very quickly, but the fundamentals of Chef, its core, isn't really changing, so we can feel pretty solid about the way that we are instructing that. The other thing that's true about something like Habitat or any of these bigger components that we do, we want to go out and help people learn it so that we can understand the best ways to help people learn it. If I look back on my history with Chef, when I started at Chef 5 years ago, we used to teach people Chef. And the way we would teach you Chef was this. Go to the supermarket, download a cookbook, run that cookbook. Wasn't that amazing? Now you're chefing. Next lesson, go to the supermarket, download a cookbook, run that cookbook. Wasn't that amazing? Don't you feel like a chef? Cool. Next lesson, go to the supermarket, download. That's what we taught you how to do. And that felt really good in a classroom environment or in a lab or what have you. But then when you went back to work and had to get something done, go to the supermarket, download a cookbook, you'd be called into your manager's office. Hey, we have to have a talk about the way that you're chefing. You can't just, that's not how we do that here, right? And so we've learned over the years of the best ways to help introduce you to Chef. And of course, that is by writing a cookbook. Start by solving a real problem. Start by writing it yourself, not by just pulling in someone else's cookbook.
So typically, right, when we learn Chef, we talk about setting in the whole infra before doing that, right? But is this approaching more towards using Chef Solo or something like this? You understand the language before you get into the...
Right. I do think that the best way to learn Chef is to start with what we call local development. Start by how do I write a cookbook and just run it locally on my environment? How do I run that cookbook in Test Kitchen? And the question of how do I run this cookbook in my production environment, that will come. Let's not start with production though.
So you said they could get into learning Chef because
yes.
Whenever I go, it's not being the case.
Yeah, so with Learn Chef, we do, of course, we want to get you to a place where you are using the server. But when we get you started, there are whole modules and tracks around local cookbook development. And so you can actually pick and choose. The tracks are kind of they're laid out a little bit in an order, but as an example, you could start with local development and testing before you do infrastructural automation, right? It's really up to you. And so I think it's important to understand sort of the path and what is the skill that you're most after, right? Because if your job is the person who's responsible for managing the Chef server, you have very different learning goals than the person who's responsible for writing all of the cookbooks, right?
A little bit more about Habitat.
What's that?
Habitat.
Yeah, Habitat? Well, you have to wait until all right, now.
Test-driven infrastructure.
All right, I hear test-driven infrastructure a lot. TDD. All right. All right, I'm doing test-driven infrastructure. That's where we're going next. Don't worry, we'll sell DevOps too. I'm sure we'll have time. Okay, so this is going to be a live demonstration, and so I'm going to just write a bunch of code. What I'm going to do, we're going to build something that's very simple, a little web server that says hello world. That's all we're going to build. And the reason we're going to keep it simple is because what I want to do is make sure we explore all of the tools in the test-driven process, the tools that you will encounter. And I'm going to need your help as we go through this. Okay? So I'm just going to switch over to an editor here. Let's see. I think I will close out of this one. Let me just make der Bangalore. Can you see that okay in the back? Is it big enough? Yeah? Okay. All right. So I want to write a cookbook that's going to manage a web server for me. That web server, when I go to it, I'm going to see the words hello world. That's it. So the first thing I need to do is create a cookbook. Okay? So if you've watched my videos, you know that you should do knife cookbook generate. You should not do that. You should no longer do that. Those videos are great. They're awesome. They help you learn chef 4 years ago, 3 years ago. We've moved on. There are better ways. So I have installed the Chef Development Kit on my workstation. Sorry, that was weird, right? I'm going to use Chef Generate Cookbook Web Server. Let's see what this does. So this has generated a web server cookbook for me. It's ensuring that I have all of the content correct. It actually starts a Git repository for me for this cookbook, sets up a build environment and a couple of other things, and my cookbook is ready. And look at this. It says to set up the pipeline, CD into web server, and then run delivery init. I'm not going to run the delivery init because I'm going to stay local. I'm just going to stay local. But let me go ahead and CD into web server. And look at this. My prompt has changed. Of course, I'm a good shell user. I trick out my prompts. What you can see here is I'm on a Git branch. I'm on the master branch. This is now a Git repository. I can do a Git log and see, wow, look at all these things that have already been committed to my repository. So I have some generated cookbook content. I have a delivery build cookbook, delivery configuration, and so forth. All right, I'm going to go ahead and open up this cookbook in my text editor. I'm going to use Atom for that. And I want to follow a test-driven infrastructure process. So I have a question for you. You've just been given a node. What you have right now is SSH access to that node. And your manager, your colleague said, hey, this node should have a web server running and it should say hello world. You can't pull it up in a browser because I've just taken that off. I mean, you could, but I'm saying that's not allowed. What would you do to figure out if this node is working? Tell me what you would do. I'm sorry? I would do a curl. Okay. So you might curl localhost. Yeah? What else might you do to figure out if it's working? What's that?
E-links.
You might do some e-links, which is essentially the same as curl. So true, but I'm not going to take that. What else might you do? What if curl localhost doesn't work? What else might you do to figure out, let's say, we're going to say it's Apache that is the web server that should be running. Okay, so we should check, is Apache running? That might be too small. How's that? That's better. Is Apache running? I heard someone say the port. Is the port listening? I think I heard someone say, is the service running? All right, that's pretty good. That's like 4 different things that we might check. All right, so in a true test-driven process, this is how I need to start. How do I know when I'm done? I'll know when I'm done if I can curl localhost, or I'll know when I'm done if Apache is running, if the service is running, and so forth. And so the first thing that I'm going to do in my cookbook is write tests. I'm going to write tests that will tell me, am I done? So I'm going to use InSpec for my testing framework here. InSpec is a language that allows me to build integration tests for my infrastructure code. So let's start off. I'm going to move this curl one actually down to the end of this. And let's start off, is Apache running or is the service running? Those two questions are the same, aren't they? So maybe we'll say, is it installed? Okay, so let's write a test that tests, is Apache installed? So I'm going to describe package. What's the name of the Apache package? HTTPD, okay? And it should be installed. Great. Is the port listening? Describe port. What port should be listening? 80. Am I doing this right? I need an underscore there? Like that?
No?
No?
No. Otherwise, the underscore.
Right. Thanks. Code review is important. All right. Is the service running? Describe service. What's the service name? And let's curl localhost. I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question. They're keywords, yeah. Those are specific matchers that you have for those particular types of resources. So InSpec is this language framework that gives us new types of resources, like a resource like a package and a port, and each one can have different matchers. So it should be listening or it should be installed. Of course, a package isn't going to be listening, and a port won't be installed, right? So they're custom based on the resource that you're testing. Yep. Okay, so if I describe the command curl localhost, what should it do? It should, what? What's that?
Hello world.
It should, so it should say hello world. And where would hello world be? When I run a command. Exactly, it's going to be on standard out. So the way that we're going to say that is its standard out should, let's just say match, and then we can just, because then we can write a regular expression, because that's fun. It should match hello world. And I'm just going to do an I there. What does that I mean? We don't care about the case. Right. Okay. This feels like a good set of tests. I've built up some integration tests for this. Now, when these turn green, I feel like I'm done. It's pretty confident. So let's see if they're working right now, shall we? So, but wait. How do I figure out if they're working? I need to run a test kitchen. So how many of you have never heard of test kitchen before? Awesome. Okay. So HTTPD, that tells me which operating system am I using? CentOS. Or some RHEL-based variant, right? Can anyone see what type of system I'm using right here? It's a Mac. So I can't just test this on my Mac. I need to test it on a CentOS environment or a RHEL environment. And so I have a tool called Test Kitchen that will spin up a virtual machine for me of the target operating system. It will take my code and put it on there and execute it. So one thing I can do is a kitchen list. And I can see here that I already have Test Kitchen configured. But I see that my Test Kitchen is configured for both CentOS and for Ubuntu. So now let's think about this. If I go back and look at these commands, which of these are going to work on Red Hat if we get this done? All of them. Which of these are going to work on Ubuntu if we get this done? The second and the fourth one. So I expect the port to be listening on port 80, and I expect the curl localhost to work. Why won't the package and service work?
Especially for the platform.
Oh, right, because Debian is called, the package is called Apache 2. Why did we do that? Does anyone know? Why are they different? Why is it called HTTPD on RHEL systems, and why is it called Apache 2 on Debian systems? Can't we all just get along? Like, can't we use the same names? Why not? Do you want to know why not?
Sure.
I'll tell you. So that everyone in this room can stay employed. Yeah, because you know the difference. Yeah. Papaya, I mean your manager doesn't know the difference, right? But you get to keep your job because you know. You know. Okay, so what should we do? Should we write a cookbook that will support both CentOS and Debian, and Ubuntu, or should we just skip the Ubuntu stuff for the sake of time?
We can skip.
We can skip the Ubuntu. Okay, so if we want to do that, I have to go into my kitchen YAML. This is where I configure my test kitchen. And how did this kitchen YAML end up here? Who created it?
Chef DK.
The Chef DK when I did Chef Generate. So it created this automatically for me. So I'm just going to take this Ubuntu line and I'm just going to comment it out. Forget Ubuntu. We're just going to test CentOS. So let me come over here again, and I'm going to run kitchen list again. And now we see that I don't have 2, but I have 1. I have CentOS version 7.3. Okay. Let's go ahead and run kitchen verify. Now what kitchen verify is going to do for me, it's going to create a virtual machine. It's going to create a CentOS virtual machine for me. It's going to install Chef Client on that virtual machine. It's going to take my cookbook that I've just written, put it onto that virtual machine, and run it. And then the last step it's going to do is it's going to execute my integration tests. Those inspect tests that I just wrote. Are they going to pass?
No.
No? Why not? I've not done anything. All I've done is write tests. I haven't configured the system to do anything. All right, we're just going to let that run there for a second.
So when that comes up, can we use kitchen as a learning aid instead of giving the real name?
What's that?
Can we use kitchen as a learning aid?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You should definitely use kitchen for learning. You should not use a kitchen in production. Yes. It is definitely for learning or for testing like we're doing now. And honestly, testing is learning, I think. Like, you could make that argument. I just did. And certainly what we're doing here tonight is, oh, but look, it says my tests were successful. That's weird. It says the user root was skipped and port 80 was skipped. Huh. Why might that be? Anyone know? I'll tell you why. I didn't save the file. I didn't save the file. All right, so let me save that, and let's just run kitchen verify again and see if we get a different result this time. It helps to save the files that you've edited. Aha! Now I get some errors. In fact, I have 0 successful and 4 failures. That's what I expect, right? In a test-driven process, we're going to write our tests, watch it fail. Now we're going to write just enough code to make it pass. So let's just do one of them at a time. So our first one was, is Apache installed? So I'm going to go over to my recipe, default, and I'm going to say package HTTPD. Is that enough?
Yeah.
It is enough. It's enough. Let's just run that, see what it says. So now I'm going to run kitchen verify. I still have 4 failures. What's going on? What's that? Oh, I didn't converge. Right. I updated my recipe, but I did not apply that recipe into my test kitchen. So now let me run kitchen converge. And then if that is successful, I'll run a kitchen verify. And if it's not successful, I blame you. Just so you know.
You see the file?
I don't know. We'll find out in a second. Let's take a look. I did save the file. Yes. I learned from a mistake tonight. All right, so it says it's converging one resource on my web server default. So that's good. Let's let that go. And then it's going to run my tests. Now, let's think back. If I was going to do a cookbook that supported both Debian and RHEL-based systems, what would I do with that test that I wrote? You don't have to answer that now. I just want you to think about that. Like, how would we test that? That the package should be HTTPD or should be Apache? How should we test that? If you come up with something, let me know. But here it goes. It's installing that. It completed that. It ran the test. I have one successful. Yes. All right. So now Apache is installed. What's our next test? Port 80 should be listening. And did that pass? It did not pass. Huh. All right. Well, what chef code do I write to say, like, port 80 do action listen? Well, you think that'll do it? It looks like a chef resource. No? No, that's not going to work. Damn. So how do I make port 80 listen? How do I tell port 80 to listen? Start the service. That's great. Okay, so service, HTTPD. That's enough, right?
No.
Well, I didn't need an action for the package. Why do I need an action for the service? The default action is nothing. That seems odd, but it's true. Okay, so action. Start. Okay? Feel good about that? I've saved the file. Everybody's feeling good? All right. Now, if only I could find my place, my system. All right, let's try it again. Kitchen converge and kitchen verify. Remember, we had one passing test last time and 3 failures. Let's keep our fingers crossed. Let's see what happens. Converging 2 resources. HTTPD is up to date. Actions start on the service was good. 3 successful, 1 failure. So what's our failure now? Which one is failing? The curl command is failing.
Because we are expecting hello world.
We are expecting hello world. What are we getting? We're getting the default Apache page, right? So how should we fix that? Index.html. We should write in index.html. How will we do that with Chef? A file resource or a template resource? Which should we use, a file or a template? A file should be fine. A template would be better. You should never manage the content of your site with a cookbook. But we're going to anyhow. I'm going to use a template because I feel like doing that. I feel that that's a little bit better. So, where do your templates go? In your templates folder, let's see. I don't have a templates folder, so I should make a templates folder and then put the template in there? No, wrong.
You can go chef generate.
I should do a chef generate, of course. So I'm going to chef, let me go up 1 directory. I'm going to chef generate a template. Which cookbook do I want that template to go in? The web server cookbook. And what do I want to call that template? Index.html. Oh, .erb. It's cool. Chef knows I wanted .erb. It solved it for me. Chef learned something tonight also, that I make mistakes. It's good. So what has it done? It's created a directory here for me, a templates directory, and within that, an index.erb. You didn't know I could write HTML in addition to Java, did you? And look how easy that was for me. Okay, so that's it. That's good. Kitchen converge, kitchen verify. Let's do it again.
You need to call the template resource in the recipe.
Wait, what?
You need to call the template resource in the recipe.
Ah, right. I need to put a template resource in my recipe. Very good call. So template, where does this go? Who knows how to manage Apache?
Template should be above the service.
Ooh, should be above the service. That's a good call. What are we going to call it? var www. Source, I heard? Should be what? Anything else I need? We're good? Don't need an action?
Chef spec to actually test this out.
Oh, that's a good thought. Yeah, interesting. We'll get back to that in a second. Yeah. So, okay. Feeling good? Kitchen converge, kitchen verify. Let's see how that goes. Yes, our integration tests are working. We're very happy about this. So what's the next thing we should do? Someone say go home? Yeah, that's it. We're done. Our work here is done. Let's go home.
Nathan, I have a question.
Yes.
So the test that we ran right now, the installation behind this, is it a standalone Chef server installation or is it a standalone Chef server integrated with Chef Complete?
Yes, that's a great question. So is there a Chef server that's standing behind this? If we go back to our kitchen YAML, that will tell us. So kitchen YAML is what configures our test kitchen for us. And it's telling us to use the driver Vagrant. So I have Vagrant sitting on top of VirtualBox. Are you familiar with either of these terms? So VirtualBox is a local thing that allows you to run virtual machines. Vagrant is a wrapper around that. And I just launched my VirtualBox console. And we can see here that I have a kitchen web server default CentOS 7.3 that's running right now. So that's running. That though is just my where am I going to put that virtual machine. Next I have the provisioner. So how will I configure that? And here we're using Chef Zero. Have you heard of Chef Zero? Chef Zero, Chef Solo, Chef Client in local mode. We use 8 different names to mean the same thing. Sometimes we use the same name to mean 8 different things. Again, we want to keep everyone in this room employed. That's important, right? So Chef Zero is the same as Chef Solo, is the same as Chef Client in local mode. In other words, there is no Chef server here at all. And when we run this, the test kitchen is going to put the cookbook into that virtual machine and then run Chef Zero to install that. Okay, what is the thing that we have to do? What do we have to do next?
So, does Chef Zero have any performance improvements over Chef Solo? Because it's in the
No, Chef Solo and Chef Zero, like they are the same thing. Yes. They used to not be the same thing. They are the same thing now. So, okay, what do I need to do?
So, I also see that there's a verifier tag in the YAML that speaks about this.
Yes. So there is a verifier tag in the YAML, and then it says use inspec, and then the inspec tests that it uses are test smoke default. That's test smoke default test. That's where we wrote our test.
So does that need an inspect server or even that?
No inspect server. Nope. It's just using the local copies of these. Yes. Now with with Test Kitchen, the verifier is relatively new. Verifier with inspec. Has anyone used Test Kitchen with server spec before? Yes. Do you use a verifier for server spec? There's a different thing that you use. What's that called? Okay. It's called a busser. A busser. Now, do you know what a busser is in a kitchen or in a restaurant? The busser, again, super American, I guess. The busser is the person whose responsibility it is to come and clear the dishes, bus the dishes away. So a busser, and with server spec, the busser is responsible for taking that test framework, server spec in that case, and installing it into the virtual machine. But with inspec, you don't actually install inspec into that virtual machine because inspec can target external sources. So inspec can just inspect that virtual machine from the outside. And so we use a verifier instead of a busser to get that to happen. And this is really good because in the old way, when we used server spec and a busser, that meant that we had to install more things into our test environment that we would probably not put in production. It was probably fine in just about every case, but there could be some edge cases where in our test environment we installed a new set of gems and everything worked. And then we moved to production where those gems aren't installed and everything fails. Right? So using inspec as a verifier that looks from the outside in is much cleaner. Okay, there's a thing that's kind of making me twitch when I look at my shell prompt. I really feel uncomfortable, and it's the thing that we have to do, and no one has told me yet what I have to do next. Yes, someone said it. Say that louder. Git. Yes, I have to commit this. I've written so many lines of code. I've edited 3 different files, I think. Git status, more than 3 files. I've edited 4 different files. This makes me really, really uncomfortable. I don't want to do anything else before I commit this to my version control repository. So I'm going to git add dot, just add everything to my staging environment or to the staging section of my Git repository, so Git status. I have 1 new file and 3 files that I've changed, and I'm going to do a git commit -s -a -s. Okay, so those S flags that I used, maybe you don't use those all the time. The uppercase S, I think it was the uppercase S, one of those 2 S's, added this line to my commit message, signed off by Nathan Harvey. I have a habit of signing off on my commits because in Chef, in our open source projects, we will only accept commits that have been signed off on by the developer. This is an indication that you are authorized to contribute that code back to the project. So I do that with all of my Git commits. But what have we done here? We have
different from the author because when you were doing.
Yes, of course. So it's different from the author because the committer has to explicitly say, I'm actually signing off that this is okay. Right? And so from a legal perspective, you look at that as 2 different things. You wrote the thing, but you didn't say, I'm authorized to give this back to the project. Right? Whereas by adding this signed off by, then you're saying, not only did I write it, but I'm also signing off that I'm authorized and am willing to give this back to the project. The other thing that may happen is any given commit may have multiple authors. So you could have multiple sign-offs on a commit if we were pair programming or something like that. And so really we all should sign off because my things wouldn't have worked without your help. Right? Okay, so what's happening here? I'm going to do just a really quick, stupid, working web server. Yay. That's my commit message. Right, and quit that. There we go. That's all fine. Git status. I feel much better. Okay, so my integration tests are passing. In my world, the integration tests are where you start. You know that you're done. But is this actually all of the testing that we need to do? So let me go back to that question. What if we wanted this cookbook to support both Debian and RHEL-based systems? What would I change about this integration test? You could put an if condition so that we can check the name of the package. But you know what?
For platform family.
Yeah, for platform family. But here's the thing. Inspec doesn't really have, Inspec can get that information, but philosophically it's wrong. With an integration test, we shouldn't care about the details. What we should really care about is just like the functionality. And so what I would argue is that when we actually look at this test, this describing package HTTPD and service HTTPD, these don't really matter. My requirements were a web server that's serving up hello world. If I wanted to refactor this and make it Nginx or a Node.js application, I could still meet those requirements. And likewise, if I need to switch on which platform am I running, I'm not going to do that in my integration tests. I want one integration test that can be used that doesn't have a bunch of conditionals in it. So someone mentioned unit testing. I could do some unit testing with Chef Spec. That's a better place to put those tests in. So let's just take a look at that really quick. If I go spec, unit, recipes, default spec. So here, it sets up, let me make this just a little bit smaller. So this is where I do my unit testing. When all attributes are default on an Ubuntu 16.04, we don't want to test Ubuntu 16.04. Maybe we'll come back to that one. It says, make sure that chef run doesn't raise an error. Let's just create a second context. So we can keep this one here with Ubuntu 16.04. I'm going to copy that, paste it here, but I'm going to change this to CentOS. And what did we call it? CentOS 7. Yeah. So here I'm going to change my platform to CentOS. Let me also wrap this so you can see everything that I'm doing. And let's call this, what version is it?
7.3.
7.3? Okay, I believe you that it's 7.3. I don't believe that my test environment is going to work on 7.3 with Chef Spec because I think So we're going to test 7.1, and I think that's going to work properly. Okay, but what we can do here is, well, this one is nice. First of all, it converges successfully. Expect the chef run to not raise an error. And then the next thing that we can do, remember we removed that package and we removed the service. So we could test for these as part of my unit test. I'm just going to move this up to the top of the screen. So it installs Apache, expect chef run to is this right?
Yep.
Install. Right. Install package. Thank you. And I will also, it starts the Apache service. So now I can run chef spec on this. And the way to do that is chef exec spec rspec on the spec directory. And let's see what we get there. Nope, it doesn't like CentOS 7.1. Let's take a look at what it will like. Wow, so maybe I should explain what I'm doing here. So the way that Chef Spec works is it relies on FOHI to get the right details for any environment. And 7.1503 should work. So let's come back over here. And 1503, save that.
Nope, not quite.
No?
Yeah, 7.1.150.
Like that?
So.
Yep, you're right. Thanks, Scott. Let's run that again, see what we get. 4 examples, 0 failures. That's great. So now, what I could do, back in this unit test, what if I did want to test on Ubuntu? I could take this same package resource, the same package test. Well, let's take them both, the package test and the service test. And I could add those here, and instead of HTTPD, it's Apache 2. And so now, of course, if I run this, I'm going to see 2 failures on Ubuntu because I have no provisions to install Apache 2 right now. 6 examples, 2 failures. So I could then go back into my recipe and say Apache name
Actually need to do this.
I know.
I'm sorry.
That's cool. Now let's give that a test. See how that goes. Bah! It failed everywhere. Why did it fail on me that time? Ah. Just run that again so it's at the top of the screen, you can see it. So now my recipe is working properly and my chef spec is good. So let me commit that really quickly. So git status, all looks good there. Git commit but unit testing isn't enough either. What are the other types of tests that we can run on a cookbook? Anyone know? Right. I can do some static analysis of my code. And there are 2 tools that we use within Chef. One is Food Critic. So let's go ahead and run Food Critic on my cookbook. So Food Critic found a number of errors for me. First, it says, avoid string interpolation where not required. What does that mean? So let's look at our recipe on line 13 and line 19. Both of those seem to fail. So this is line 13. Do you see what it's complaining about here? It's complaining about the double quotes and this. I could simply do it like that, because it's just a variable name. I don't actually need to interpolate that at all. So I can fix both of those there. Save that. And then let's rerun Food Critic. Okay, now we still have 3 other errors. One is that the issues URL is not set, the source URL is not set, and the third is that no platform is listed in our supported metadata. Well, each of these have to do with the supermarket. So if I'm going to publish my cookbook to the supermarket, if I put this data into the metadata file, then supermarket viewers can read and figure out where should I submit issues to this cookbook. But I don't actually care. I'm not going to publish this to the supermarket. So I want to tell Food Critic to ignore the supermarket rules. So what I can run instead is a different command, which maybe isn't a command that you're thinking I'm going to run. Delivery local syntax. I think it's syntax. It might be lint. And delivery local lint. Nope, it's not lint. It's definitely syntax. Delivery local syntax. How many of you have run this command before? Never seen it before. What delivery local is doing is actually executing Food Critic. So delivery is the CLI that we use with Chef Automate for workflow. Within my cookbook, there's a .delivery directory, and within that there's a project.toml. Sorry, there's a build cookbook. Nope, it's not where I want to be at all. Yeah. Right. There's a project.toml. And what it does is it sets up a bunch of local phases for me. And so my syntax check, yes, here. My syntax check that I just ran is going to run food critic. It's going to exclude the spec directory. We don't want to run food critic against our unit tests. That's fine. It will fail for any tags except, almost tripped there, except tags that are marked as supermarket. So if a test in food critic is marked as supermarket, it won't actually run those tests. So this is really nice. And you can see here that delivery local can be used not only for syntax with food critic, but it can also be used for each one of my kitchen commands. It can also be used for my unit testing up at the top there, chef exec rspec spec, and for my linting, chef exec cook style. Ooh, how many of you have heard of cook style before? A couple of you. And I heard you mention earlier Rubocop, right? So Rubocop will do linting for your Ruby code. But we recommend not using Rubocop and instead using cook style. Cook style is essentially the same as Rubocop, but it locks down and gives us only good cops that we think are appropriate for chef cookbooks. So I'm going to go ahead and run that one also because I know I have some problems there. Delivery, local, lint. And here it's giving me 10 offenses. 10 things were found that were wrong. Now, the nice thing about cook style is it works like Rubocop in that I can run, I don't know if it'll work like this, -A. Yeah, it's not going to like that. I can run cook style on this. -A is for autocorrect. So it tells me 6 files inspected, 10 offenses, 9 offenses corrected. So now let's just run that lint again, without the -A. And we see only one thing has failed now. Wow, so cook style just fixed all of those lint errors for me. And it doesn't like the way I've written my spec. So let me just go ahead and fix that here. What it really wants is it to look like this. I think that should make... Oh.
You're hot. Oh, no, you're sorry.
I think that should fix it for me. Yes, indeed. So now I have no offenses. So this is pretty cool. I can do delivery, local lint, and delivery local syntax. And delivery local unit. I can run my lint, syntax, and unit tests, all using essentially the same command, just switching it slightly. And the other thing that's really nice about this is over time, we used to use Rubocop as our syntax or as our lint checker. Today we recommend cook style as our lint checker. Well, a couple of things will happen. As we change which tools we want, when we update the generators from Chef Cookbook, the project toml will be updated with the ones that we recommend now. So that's a nice thing. But another nice thing about the project file is if you look down here at the bottom of this file, which you can't see until I push it up here, you can actually set up a remote project.toml file. And this is really nice because as an organization you say all of our cookbooks should follow the same tooling for lint testing, for unit testing, for spec testing, for syntax checking. You can just publish your project TOML on an S3 bucket or on an internal URL. And then when it changes, you change it one place. You don't have to change it across all of your cookbooks. It's very powerful. Okay, so that was probably longer than I wanted to talk about test-driven development, but I hope that helps because it gives a nice sort of survey of all of the tools that we have. So for our integration or functional testing, we'll use Test Kitchen. And in fact, the delivery command allows us to use Test Kitchen itself. We want to use unit testing for our chef spec or with chef spec, and then lint and syntax through Food Critic and Cook Style, respectively. Also, when you're writing those tests, always think about write the test first, watch the test fail, write enough code to make it pass. But then I also like to, exactly as we did here, start with those integration or those smoke tests, those kitchen tests with inspect. And then think about how do I refactor and move some of those tests out of integration tests and into unit tests. Because unit tests run much faster. I don't have to spin up an environment to run my chef specs. I don't need that kitchen around. So the more I can put into those unit tests, the less time I spend on my integration tests. And also those unit tests are really the most appropriate use for those is when you have branching or switching logic within your recipes. If we're doing Ubuntu versus CentOS, that's a good thing to test within your unit tests. All right, what questions can I answer for you about testing? All right, let's do a topic that's not so down in the weeds here. Ooh, we should check time too. 9 o'clock. All right, I think we have time for one more topic. Let's do, are you down for one more topic? Yeah. We're going to do selling DevOps. How about that? We're going to do selling DevOps. Okay. You can't go to your boss and say, boss, I want to automate more servers, and because the more servers I automate, the more I should get paid, the better off we're going to be. Like, that's probably true. The more automation you incorporate in is probably better. But you have to think about why. You can't go to your CEO. Your CEO is never going to come to you, and I'm stealing this next quote from a guy named Andrew Clay Schaefer. Your CEO is never going to come up to you and say, hey, great job configuring servers this year. You've done really well. I'm proud of you. Why would your CEO do that? Your CEO does not care about that, right? What your CEO cares about are the things that you need to care about also. So when it comes time to selling DevOps within your organization, you can't just go and say, man, Chef is an incredible tool. It's the best thing ever. We have to do more of it. Docker, 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 Docker. All my friends are using Docker. Let's do that. That doesn't matter. None of that matters. The tooling choices are important, yes. They're going to be the things that are going to help you be effective at your job, absolutely. But they're not the things that your business cares about. The reason they're not the things that your business cares about is because your customers don't care. Think about the mobile app that you have on your phone right now. Was it configured with Chef or Puppet? Do you care? Do you know? You said no. No, it wasn't. Neither. Right? But it doesn't matter. As an end user, we don't care. So it's important if we want to sell DevOps, if we want to do more of this, get more people focused on this, get more people focused on the collaboration, we can't start with just our goals in mind. We have to think about this. Who are our customers? Who are the customers of our business? What's the business of our business? How do we deliver business value? What's our role in that? And what are the metrics, what are the KPIs, the key performance indicators that our business cares about? What are they driving towards? And when we have an understanding of that, and when we think about that, we can then start translating that into capabilities that we can deliver in IT, things that will be in support of that. So let's say that your business is all about improving your customer's experience. Your customers are fickle. What they want changes from week to week. Their demands are very high. They want you to respond and be ready to go and meet their demands. So how can we deliver on that in IT? Well, we can look at some software success metrics. How do we measure the job that we do in IT? And what are the capabilities that we bring? Well, business, the customer is very fickle. Their tastes change, their desires change all the time. So in IT, the thing that we can do to help meet that demand of the customer is we can move faster. We can increase the speed with which we can respond to those changing customer demands, those changing customer needs. And by investing in this thing that we're calling DevOps, or investing in this thing that we call automation, we can actually prove out that we can increase the speed of our organization, increase the speed of our change. But we can also talk about the fact that increasing speed isn't necessarily enough. Increasing speed without also increasing our efficiency is a problem. Increasing speed without decreasing risk is also a problem. Right? So we have to go and talk to the business about these things. And when it comes to speed, efficiency, and risk, there are a couple of ways that we can look at this, that we can actually measure, and that you should be measuring, and measuring within your business. And we at Chef and others in the industry have done a bunch of research on this. So what does it mean to move fast? Well, you can measure how frequently are you deploying software into your production environment. Or what is your time from commit to deploy? And when you look at that, think about how do we measure that? What's the unit of measure? Is the deployment frequency measured in months? Or is it measured in hours? Or minutes? Or days? Where is that measurement? When we think about our time from commit to deploy, also think about how is that measured? Is it months? Is it minutes? And we want to be on the smaller side of that. We want to use the smaller unit of measure. And if you think about that, deployment frequency, how do you increase your deployment frequency? How do you decrease your time from commit to deploy? There are absolutely some technical changes that you can make. First, you can increase your deployment frequency if you deploy smaller changes. Don't wait and batch up a bunch of changes. I've got 6 months worth of changes, now let's put those into production. Let's take every change and get it all the way through a pipeline into production. So we use smaller commits, smaller deploys. But your business, that might sound really scary. I've definitely worked at places where the deploy was a big event. And it was a big event because it always went wrong, right? And so I went to the business and I said, don't worry, I know how to solve this problem. We're going to deploy more frequently. And they say, no, that sounds like you're going to break things more frequently. Let's not do that. But we worked through it and we talked about this idea that by deploying more frequently, we're actually introducing less change. And that's going to help us work better as a business, be able to respond faster. And we're going to have to build up that muscle. We're going to have to build up that experience. And frankly, we're going to have to build up that trust, right? Because those big deploys that fell over, every time they fell over, the trust in my team's ability to get work done just went down and down and down. But if we can flip that around and deploy all the time, that changes that. What's that?
Make deployments boring.
Exactly. Deployments should be boring. Deployments should be boring. Time from commit to deploy. If you want to focus in on this can be a really interesting thing. It also, I found, and I'll just give you a little thing to try out here. I'd love for you to try this out and report back to me your success on it. One of the things that's important when you adopt Chef or any technology is within your company, you build a community of practice around that technology. You build experts that know how to use that technology, and novices that know a little bit about how to use that technology. So when it comes time to measuring your commit to deploy, I like to do this as an exercise with my customers. So you're bringing someone new into the Chef team, into your internal Chef community. What if we wrote a Chef cookbook that dropped a file onto our systems in a known location? Maybe it's just at the root, and the file is just a text file, and it says Chef community members. That's the name of the file. And when you join the Chef team, your first job is to get your name in that file on a production system. Now think about all of the steps that you have to go through for that one line of code to make it to production. As we talked about earlier, the first thing is Maybe no work gets done unless there's a ticket behind it. So do you have access to the ticketing system? Do you have permissions to open up a ticket in the right project? Next, now that you've opened up a ticket and it's been assigned to you, whoa, wait, were you even able to be assigned to tickets? Maybe you could open them, but they couldn't be assigned to you. Now we have to go through and get that problem fixed. Now that the ticket is assigned to you and you're going to start that work, you have to indicate that you're starting that work, and that work is going to start by you checking out code from a repository. Do you have access to that repository? Are you able to check code out from that repository? Now that you've written that code, can you submit it into the pipeline? How does the pipeline even work on this team, right? So by taking this very simple example, for everyone new that comes to your team to work on Chef, you can measure the amount of time that it takes. And you can talk about, look at all this waste in the system. How can we improve this time for a new person on the team to become effective? And the other thing that's really cool about this is over time, if everyone that's committing to the Chef code, their first job is to add their name to that file, over time you can go back and look at that file. Here's the community of chefs within my organization. That's pretty cool. Not only that, but I'm listed number 3. You're number 27. I've been doing it way longer. That gives me some nice credibility, right? That gives me some clout on the street. Like I'm part of the original crew. I'm an OG chef. We got it going on, right? So that's an interesting thing to think about. Think about what are the capabilities that IT can deliver. We can deliver speed. How do we measure speed? How do we know that we're moving faster? Well, we're deploying more frequently, and the time it takes from commit to deploy is shrinking. There are technology things that will make that a success and make that possible, but there are also process and culture things. When we focus on efficiency, we can look at our change failure rate. It's awesome, we're deploying more frequently, but how often does a deploy lead to a failure? We have to measure that. Because every time you deploy and there's a failure, you have to go and rework that. And that's unplanned work. It's new work that you're doing that's not driving the business forward. It's just fixing something that was broken. We want to be driving the business forward. So think about your change failure rate. And then when there is a failure, because there will be failures, there will always be failures, how long does it take us to resolve those failures? And again, that's another thing that's not just a technology question. How long does it take to resolve a failure? Well, if only we had Chef, we would have resolved that failure much faster. No, you wouldn't have. Not with Chef alone. Not with any tool alone. That comes down to the process. How do you treat those failures? How do you respond when there's a failure? How quickly do you even know that there's a failure? Right? So how quickly can you detect that failure? How quickly can you resolve that? And again, if we're moving faster, but we're just introducing more breaks, that's going to erode trust across our organization, and we're going to go back to our old ways. And then finally, yes, yeah.
The medium and the low IT performer, the change failure rate, the range seems to be.
Yeah, it's interesting, and there's a little asterisk there on the slide, and let me see if it's in the speaker notes. Also, the asterisk points out a counterintuitive anomaly. If you don't ship quickly, you don't fail as often, but then who cares? As orgs transition from low performing to high performing, they have to pay off technical debt while they learn new tooling and automation, so they often stumble. So as you start moving faster, you also have this technical debt that you have to work down, and so you're starting to move faster, but that also means you're failing a little bit more frequently. So that's what that is. Thanks for noticing that and pointing it out. So the last one is when we focus on risk. It's awesome. We've got all this automation. We can move faster. We're moving more efficiently. But things happen outside of our control. We have policies that we have to follow. How frequently are we testing those policies? How frequently are we doing audits? I know where I used to work, we would do audits on a regular basis. That regular basis was once every 6 months. And so when it was time for the auditor to come in, we were super compliant. And then the auditor walked out, and, things happened. We ran our business. The auditor's coming back in, super compliant. It's cool. And then the auditor walks out, right? And this is what compliance typically looks like, right? When you're looking at it, you stay focused on it. So how frequently are you running those audits? And how do you automate that? And that's where something like Inspect can come in. We just used Inspect to do some integration testing. That's one of the things you can use Inspect for. But you can also use Inspect to actually write compliance controls that you can build into your pipeline and start testing those as part of your development workflow. So how frequently are you auditing? Is it on demand? Is it continuously? In the world of Chef, we want you to run your audits, your Inspect controls, every time the Chef client runs. Think about this, running your audits every 30 minutes in your production systems. Now when the auditor comes in, we can hand the auditor a report. It says, here are all of the resources that we're checking. Here's the frequency with which we're checking them. Here's where we saw failures. Here's where everything stayed good. Also, this idea of auditing every 6 months or auditing even every 3 months. What happens between those 2 times of audit, the auditor expects that your systems are static, that they're stable. How many of you have systems that stay stable for 3 months? No changes for 3 months. Everything's just running. It's not the case. None of us do that. And then when we do find things that are outside of policy, how long does it take us to remediate those? There's some bad news happening right now. I don't know, you probably saw it this morning, right? There was, weeks and weeks ago, there's a WannaCry exploit. Today, there's another exploit that goes after the same vulnerability as WannaCry, right? So the time to remediate for those folks that are being impacted is not great. And it's not because they're bad human beings or anything. I feel for those people. I want to go give each and every one of them a hug. I'm sorry you've had a terrible day. Also, please patch your systems, right? But we have to think, if we want to sell DevOps, if we want to sell DevOps to our organization, to management, to our executives, we have to think in terms of the business. We also have to think in the way that our executives think. They want to see numbers. They want to see data. It's cool that tonight I've given a couple of you a hug. You can't go back home and say, CEO, this DevOps thing is awesome. We're going to get more hugs going on in the office. We're going to have a culture of hugging. And that may be the case. Like, that may be one of the outcomes. But the CEO doesn't care about that. The CEO cares about is, are you delivering faster, more efficiently? Are you minimizing your risk? That said, we also do, like, the jokes aside, we don't necessarily need to measure the hugs, but we do need to measure how engaged are our employees. How much are we collaborating with one another? Because that's going to be in service of speed, efficiency, and minimizing risk. Okay, I want to thank you all so much for coming out tonight. I knew we wouldn't, and I know we didn't get to all 8 of our topics. As I mentioned, I have recorded this. I'll edit the recording a little bit, make sure it's okay, and then I'll get it posted somewhere, and I'll link it probably through the Meetup group. And then, of course, if you're in the community Slack, we can link it there as well. Now, I have some of my business cards up here. I would love to chat more with you, either through the Chef Community Slack, through Twitter, or through email. You saw how many unread messages I have in Slack. That's nothing compared to the number of unread messages I have in email, trust me. So Slack is definitely better. And then I told someone tonight, send me an email. And when I don't respond, call me out on Twitter. It's cool. I respect that, and I will go and read my email. You don't have to leave immediately, and I would encourage you to hang out, get to know one another if you haven't had a chance to yet. I'm sure there's more food if you're still hungry. And I look forward to coming back to Bangalore and visiting you for another Chef Meetup. And certainly when I come back to Bangalore, I would love to come visit you where you work. This is great to come out here and talk about and share experiences. But it doesn't compare to me coming on site and watching you work, seeing what you're doing with Chef. So thank you all very much.